You're listening to the Building Psychological Strength Podcast Business Edition. My name is April Seifert. Not only am I a doctoral level psychologist, but I've been a successful entrepreneur for a number of years and have learned firsthand that building psychological strength can have a direct impact on your business success. In this Friday edition of the podcast, I'll offer you tools, tips, tricks, and information to help you become stronger, more resilient, and more successful. Let's get to it. Ed Ralph said, it's not about work-life balance, it's about work-life integration. And both Dolly Parton and Hillary Clinton are credited with saying something to the extent of, don't get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life. Today is the third and final installment of our three-part series about the importance of uncovering our top personal values and using them as a guiding principle or as a compass to help us make some of our most difficult decisions. If you haven't caught my most recent 2 Friday episodes, the most recent ones that you'll see in your podcast feed, you'll definitely want to catch them after this, because in them, I made the case for the importance of uncovering your top values. And I talked about how you can use your values as a way to help set and maintain boundaries with your clients and your customers. Now, today, I want to get a little bit more personal with this third episode in this series. I want to talk about the intersection of our work as entrepreneurs and our personal lives. Now, I've yet to meet a successful entrepreneur who hasn't had at least some trouble with the intersection of their business and their personal lives. I mean, heck, I bet everyone listening to this, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, has Googled the phrase work-life balance at one time or another. But for entrepreneurs and business owners, it's on a whole other level. And that's why we're diving in today. As it turns out, some good, honest self-awareness and a crystal clear idea of what your values are goes a long way in this domain. So let's dive in there. If you've listened to me for a while and you've heard me tell my personal story, or if you listen to my TEDx talk, you know that my dad's death from cancer when I was 11 years old has radically shaped the way that I think about, the way that I design, and the way that I experience my own life. And this includes my business. So for those who haven't heard me tell my story, I'll give you the really short and sweet version. So my dad passed away from cancer when I was 11, and years after he died, I was in grad school. And I was sitting there one day and I realized that I wasn't doing many of the things that I wanted to be doing deep down. And it was mostly out of fear of failure and fear of imperfection. And it hit me. Life is finite. Our time is finite. And I asked myself the question, what would my dad give to have the opportunity that I'm wasting right now? And my life changed that day, and I am not being dramatic. I began living with intention. I thought hard about how I spent my time and who I spent it with. I began living like my life depended on it. Because guess what, you guys? It does. And that mindset is one of the things that allowed me to take the plunge into entrepreneurship. I mean, when you realize how precious life is, taking risks becomes a bit less scary. And sometimes taking the edge off is all we need to take that first step into something scary. So how we spend our time and who we spend it with is critically important. It literally is our life experience. However, now that I've been an entrepreneur for a while, I've come to realize that the way that we strike the balance of what we spend our time on, it's a bit unique. You know, the simple fact is that many of us got into business because we were passionate about the work or the opportunity or our ability to contribute in some way, or our ability to build something, make something, or express our creativity, the vision of it all. It's all very motivating in a way that most traditional jobs just aren't. And because of that, the fictitious line between our work and our personal lives is even more blurry or arguably non-existent than it is for a person who's working as an employee. Now, Martin Seligman, he's a famous psychologist, and he basically founded the field of positive psychology. And he has a framework that offers a really great explanation for why entrepreneurs experience so much more integration between their work and their personal lives. So his framework uses the acronym PERMA, P-E-R-M-A, to delineate the 5 main factors that drive well-being, or what he calls, quote, the good life. These factors are positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and achievement. Let's take a quick pause. I'm going to say those again really slowly, and I want you to think about how they relate to your work as an entrepreneur. Okay, here we go, really slowly. Positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and achievement. The blurred line between our work as entrepreneurs and our personal life is non-existent, in my opinion, partially because for many of us, our entrepreneurial ventures feed into each of these 5 factors. I certainly get a ton of positive emotion from my work. Most of my days are really great. That's not to say I don't experience challenges, but in general, I get a big hit of positive emotion from a lot of my days. And I do feel a deep sense of engagement, or flow, as another word that you might have heard, a deep sense of engagement or flow when I'm working. And part of the success that I've had so far is due to the deep and meaningful relationships that I've cultivated and intentionally developed with people in my network. And when it boils down to it, my work does have meaning. I truly feel like I'm helping people in so many ways with my work, and that's deeply meaningful for me. And finally, I experience a sense of achievement on a daily basis. Overcoming struggles is part of the experience, and it feels amazing to know that I have figured it out. Like, what an achievement. So because of this, a lot of our well-being as people can be wrapped up in the work we do as entrepreneurs, much more so than what I experienced when I was an employee. And please don't misunderstand when I say that. I worked for incredible companies, on incredible teams, on work that was important. It's just that it's on a whole new level when it's your company, your team, your vision, your work, your creativity. So knowing how to strike a balance between work and life can be incredibly difficult for us, for entrepreneurs. And if you've been listening to my last couple of episodes, you know that your personal values can provide a clear compass to help you make some of those really difficult decisions. And this is one of them, which is why I'm diving into it today. Now, if you've done the work to figure out what your top 5 values are, look at them from the lens of work-life integration. What do they tell you about how you'd ideally like to be spending your time? If we're being honest, as entrepreneurs, your ideal proportion and ratio might look very different than other people's. For example, it's extremely important to me to experience a sense of, I don't know what the overarching word for these 3 are, but it basically bubbles up to freedom, individuality, and creativity. That's like one important thing for me. And one way I get to express and live that value is through my work, through the agency I have as a business owner to choose what I work on next and how to focus my energy. Another value of mine involves mentoring. Now, in my work, I live this value by teaching other aspiring entrepreneurs through this podcast and through my direct leadership of people who work for me. In my personal life, I deeply live this value as a mom to 2 young girls. There's a balance, yet an integration there. And I encourage you to think through what your ideal balance or integration looks like and use your personal values as a guide. Now, I know what you're going to say. There's no way I'll hit that ideal. Of course you won't. That's not the point. The point is to know what that ideal is so you have something to point at. You have a direction to go, because without it, you'll risk moving in the wrong direction. You'll risk living unintentionally and by chance rather than by design. And remember, life and time are precious commodities. Now, once you have that ideal, begin brainstorming ways you can iterate closer to it. Now, if you're working currently 60, 70, or more hours per week right now, take a deep breath and give yourself some time. It's going to take some time to steer the ship back into alignment, and that's okay. What matters more than perfection or speed is intentionality. Getting that ideal balance or integration is probably a better word. Getting it crystal clear and having it be values driven so that you're pointing in a direction that you are intentionally choosing, and you're slowly bringing the ship back into alignment with that direction. Go back to the story about my dad and the realization that I had in grad school. It's worth doing that work. Create your work-life balance and integration by design, not by default. And by God, live like your life depends on it, because it does. Thank you so much for joining me for this business edition of the Building Psych Strength podcast. If you're an entrepreneur, current or aspiring, and you're interested in becoming more successful, hit the subscribe button. If you're really interested in digging deep, visit aprilseifert.com, where you can fill out an application to see if Psych Strength Business Success Coaching is right for you. Until next week, be strong, be resilient, and be successful.